Picture yourself staring at your bank account balance, watching that pathetic number mock you from your phone screen after Maghrib prayer. Maybe it's $734, maybe it's $216 if you're having a good month and your sadaqah commitments came due. Either way, that first halal $1,000 feels about as achievable as climbing Mount Everest in flip-flops while fasting. Meanwhile, some finance guru on the internet is telling you that once you hit $10,000, the next $10,000 comes twice as fast. And you're thinking, yeah, right, tell that to my Synchrony bank balance from last December. Well, here's the thing that's gonna blow your mind. That financial guru isn't lying to you. They're not even telling you the whole truth about how dramatically easier it gets, and they're definitely not telling you the Muslim-specific version that determines whether you'll spend your life carrying riba debt or quietly building real halal wealth. The psychology and mathematics behind why your first $1,000 in halal savings is exponentially harder than your next $10,000 isn't feel-good motivation. It's cold, hard science that most Muslims never understand, which is exactly why so many of our communities stay broke their entire lives. My name is Omar, and I spend way too much time thinking about why some Muslims effortlessly build wealth while others work their entire lives and have nothing to show for it except a credit card balance and a postponed Hajj. If you're tired of feeling like you're running on a financial treadmill, subscribe and hit that like button, because we're about to dive deep into the psychological warfare happening in your brain every time you try to save money inside the halal frame. Before we get into the brutal math, let me ask you something. When you think about wealthy Muslims, what do you picture? Maybe a doctor uncle who never struggled, maybe a family that owns property in 3 countries. Maybe someone who was born with some special financial gene you clearly missed. Here's the truth that's going to sting. The difference between Muslims who build wealth and ones who don't has almost nothing to do with how much money they make, and everything to do with understanding the invisible psychological forces working against them, layered on top of the cultural and family forces specific to our community. Your brain is literally wired to sabotage your financial success. Neuroscientists have studied this. There's something called temporal discounting, which is your brain valuing immediate rewards way more than future benefits. Your brain sees spending $50 on the new halal restaurant tonight as appealing, but saving that same $50 for some abstract future Hajj fund feels about as exciting as watching paint dry. The same mechanism that makes saving your first $1,000 feel impossible is exactly what makes the next $10,000 feel effortless once you understand how to work with it instead of against it. The first barrier you're fighting is the house money effect. Your brain treats money differently depending on how you got it. Money you earned at your W-2 feels heavy, important, difficult to part with, but money you found in your pocket from last aid, the cash uncle pressed into your hand at the wedding, the tax refund, the bonus, that money feels different. Your brain categorizes it as play money. You're way more likely to blow it on something stupid. In our community, this version is particularly brutal because aid money, walima cash gifts, and family transfers add up to thousands of dollars a year for many Muslims, and almost all of it gets mentally classified as play money and disappears within 30 days. Every dollar should be treated the same regardless of where it came from, but your brain plays accounting tricks that keep you broke. Then there are the money scripts buried deep in your subconscious. These are beliefs about money programmed into your head as a kid that run your financial life, whether you realize it or not. Maybe you grew up hearing your parents argue about money during late-night Ramadan kitchen conversations, so your brain associates having money with conflict. Maybe you heard things like the dunya is fleeting or wealth distracts from the akhirah so often that your brain genuinely believes pursuing wealth is somehow at odds with your deen, even though the Prophet ﷺ himself engaged in commerce and the Quran explicitly mentions wealth as a blessing. Or maybe you grew up in a household where money was never discussed at all, so you developed a shame around even thinking about building wealth. Like wanting financial security somehow makes you less serious about the deen. These invisible scripts are making financial decisions for you every single day, and most Muslims go their entire lives without realizing they're there. Here's the really messed up part. Your brain has been evolutionarily programmed to keep you alive, not to make you wealthy. For thousands of years, the humans who survived were the ones who grabbed immediate resources because there was no guarantee they'd still be there tomorrow. Your brain is still operating with this ancient software, so when you're trying to save money, you're literally fighting against millions of years of evolutionary programming. Every time you choose to save instead of spend, you're going against every instinct your brain has developed, and your brain is going to fight you every step of the way. But once you hit certain psychological thresholds, something magical happens. Your brain stops seeing saving as deprivation and starts seeing it as achievement. The same psychological mechanisms working against you suddenly flip and start working for you. There's something called self-efficacy, which is your belief in your own ability to succeed at something. When you have zero saved, the idea of having $10,000 feels completely impossible. Your brain can't even picture it, so it doesn't try. But once you hit your first halal $1,000, something clicks. Your brain suddenly has proof that you're the type of Muslim who can save money inside the deen. This isn't just feel-good psychology. This is measurable, documented behavior change. People who successfully saved their first $1,000 are exponentially more likely to save their next 1,000 than people who have never saved anything. It's like your brain rewrites its entire story about who you are and what you're capable of as a Muslim. Here's where the math gets interesting. That first $1,000 is almost entirely dependent on your behavior and your ability to spend less than you earn. But once you have money invested in screened equities through Wahed, an SDBA-equipped 401k, or a self-directed account holding HALAL, SPUS, or SPSK, compound growth starts doing work for you. Even at modest returns, your money begins earning money inside the deen. Let me show you with real numbers. Say you save just $100 every month. I know, $100 might as well be $100,000 when you're looking at your current budget after rent, halal groceries, Sunday school tuition, and the cousin's walima gift. At $100 a month, it takes you exactly 10 months to save your first $1,000. 10 months of saying no to things you want. 10 months of feeling like you're making zero progress. 10 months of your friends thinking you've lost your mind because you won't show up to the new halal steakhouse anymore. Those 10 months feel like an eternity because your brain is constantly reminding you of all the things you could be buying instead. But that same $100 a month after you've already got some money working for you behaves completely differently. You keep saving $100 monthly, but now you're earning around 7% annual return on your screened equity portfolio. Your second $1,000 takes about 9 months instead of 10. Your brain barely notices. By the time you're working on your $10,000, it's taking less than 6 months to save each additional $1,000. We're not just talking about the time it takes anymore. We're talking about the fact that your money is literally working harder than you are. While you're sleeping, while you're at your day job, dealing with the meeting that got scheduled during Jummah again, while you're at Taraweeh, your screened investments are out there generating returns. By the time you hit $10,000 saved and invested, something mind-blowing happens. Your investments start generating enough returns that they're doing significant heavy lifting. At 7% annual returns, your $10,000 is earning about $700 a year without you doing anything. That's almost 2 months of your $100 monthly contribution for free. Now your brain starts to get it. You start checking your Wahed balance, not with dread, but with genuine excitement. You start seeing monthly gains and thinking, this is actually working. The same mechanisms that made saving feel impossible are now making saving feel addictive. This is when Muslims start doing things that seem crazy to their broke friends. They start looking for ways to increase contributions. They get excited about tax refunds, not because they can blow the money on something fun, but because they can dump it into screened equities. They start seeing expensive halal restaurant meals not as treats they deserve, but as opportunities they're giving up. Your brain has completely rewired itself. Instead of seeing saving as deprivation, you start seeing spending as the thing depriving you of your future wealth and your future hajj and your future ability to live a clean farat inheritance. This psychological flip is so powerful that brothers describe it as life-changing. They finally understand a secret that everyone else is missing. And here's the beautiful part. The more money you have working for you, the less dependent you become on your own contributions. We started with $100 a month feeling impossible. When you have $50,000 invested at 7% returns, that money is earning about $3,500 a year on its own, almost 3 times your annual savings contribution happening automatically. At this point, you could literally stop saving entirely and your wealth would continue growing. But most people don't stop. They get so excited watching their net worth climb that they start saving even more aggressively. They realize they're building freedom and Baraka-aligned options, not just money. The psychology gets even more interesting when you understand what money really represents inside the deen. Most Muslims think money is about buying stuff or hitting some status marker the anti-network will notice. The Muslims who actually build wealth understand money is about buying choices. When you have zero savings, you have zero choices. You take the job you can get, not the one that respects your Jummah schedule. You live where you can afford, not near the masjid you actually want to be part of. of. You make decisions based on what you can afford this month, not what serves your long-term obligations as a Muslim. But when you have $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 saved in halal vehicles, you suddenly have options. You can take risks that broke Muslims can't afford. You can quit a job that requires constant deen compromises because you have a buffer. You can invest in yourself, start a halal business, fund umrah for both you and a parent, or take advantage of opportunities that require upfront capital. This is why the first $1,000 is the hardest. It's not just the compound math, it's the psychological transformation that happens when you prove to yourself you're capable of building wealth inside the deen. Your entire relationship with money changes. Most Muslims never experience this transformation because they give up during those brutal first 10 months. They look at their pathetic balance and think this isn't working. They don't realize they're literally months away from the psychological breakthrough that would change their entire financial and spiritual trajectory. The Muslims who push through discover something that seems magical but is actually just mathematics and psychology working together. They become obsessed with optimization. They start looking for ways to increase income specifically so they can invest more. They pay attention to fees, tax implications, and zakat mat because they realize small differences compound over decades. They make financial decisions based on their future far-away distributable wealth rather than their current circumstances. This behavioral change affects every area of their life. They become more intentional with time because they understand time and money are connected. They start thinking long-term about everything, not just finances. Meanwhile, their broke friends at the masjid are still making the same financial decisions they made 5 years ago, still grabbing halal cart lunch every day because it's only $14, still financing cars they can't afford, still living paycheck to paycheck despite getting multiple raises because they've never learned the difference between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy in the deen. The really frustrating part is watching these same brothers complain about money constantly while doing absolutely nothing to change their situation. They'll spend $80 on the new halal restaurant they'll forget about in 3 days, then claim they can't afford to put $20 a month into a wide account. They'll buy a $1,200 phone on a payment plan, then say investing in screened equities is too risky. The cognitive dissonance is stunning. Here's something that's gonna make you either laugh or cry depending on your current situation. The average American spends more money on coffee in a year than they have in their emergency fund, and in our community the version is even worse. The average Muslim spends more on halal restaurant outings, walima gifts and Eid clothes per year than they have in their Wahed account. Most Muslims are literally more committed to their halal restaurant rotation than to their financial security. And then they wonder why they feel anxious about money all the time, why Ramadan creeps up and they're scrambling on the zakat math, and why the Hajj fund they've been talking about for 5 years has $400 in it. This isn't about shaming anyone for buying coffee or eating out. This is about understanding that small financial decisions compound just like investments do, except they compound in the wrong direction. That $5 latte every weekday adds up to $1,300 a year, and the halal restaurant outing version adds up to closer to $3,000 in our community. Now imagine if that same $3,000 went into screened equities earning 7% annually. After 10 years, it would be worth over $41,000. After 20 years, over $123,000. Those daily and weekly habits literally cost you over $100,000 in future halal wealth, not to mention the zakat you would have owed on that wealth that becomes a missed opportunity for purification. Most financial advice completely misses the point because it's purely mathematical. Telling someone who's spending to fill an emotional gap to just stop spending money is like telling someone who's drowning to just stop getting wet. The Muslim version is even more layered. Brothers spend money to compensate for not feeling seen at work, where the culture isn't built for them, to perform for the auntie network they're trying to impress, to buy clothes for an Eid party where they secretly feel out of place. Sisters spend on modesty fashion that's been logo marked up to the moon because the marketing whispered that modesty is the brand. Understanding the emotion behind the spending is the only way to actually fix it. You can't solve an emotional problem with a mathematical solution. This is why the first $1,000 is so psychologically challenging. You're not just changing spending habits, you're changing your entire relationship with money, identity, and community pressure inside the deen. You're learning to find satisfaction in delayed gratification instead of instant pleasure. You're rewiring decades of conditioning. The Muslims who successfully make this transition don't do it through willpower alone. They replace spending habits with saving habits that provide similar emotional rewards. Instead of getting excited about a new purchase, they get excited about watching their wahed balance grow. Instead of feeling good about treating themselves to a restaurant meal, they feel good about adding another $100 to their screened portfolio. This shift is so powerful that it often happens without people even realizing it. One day, they're checking their investment account to notice they're more excited about a $200 gain in their portfolio than they would be about spending $200 shopping. That's the moment when building wealth stops feeling like a sacrifice and starts feeling like a game they're winning, with the added Baraka Ledger benefit of being able to pay zakat cleanly and give sadaqah generously. So there you have it. Your first $1,000 isn't just harder because of the math, it's harder because you're literally fighting your own brain's ancient programming, your inherited money scripts, your community's social pressure, and decades of conditioning while building completely new psychological pathways inside a halal frame. But once you break through that barrier, compound returns and compound psychology work together to make wealth building feel almost automatic. As always, the math is the math. The scholarly views on specific investment products and structures genuinely differ, and your final ruling on Wahed versus self-directed brokerage, on Roth versus traditional, on which screened ETF fits your situation has to come from a scholar you trust who knows your specific circumstances. The choice is yours. You can keep making excuses about why this won't work for you, or you can start that brutal but brief battle against your own impulses today. Your future Fareh distributing self is waiting.